Before a book is finished or a page exists, there's a beginning. I'm not sure how this is going to end for me, but I know how it's going to begin. I'm a first time fantasy author, and this is my attempt at telling my story of me creating my first book. I am creating this video journal, a magical behind the scenes look of my journey as I create my first novel. These are my unwritten chronicles. On my journey, I will share my wins and struggles in writing, what I've learned, what inspires me, and what it means to have writing in my life. This channel I'm making is about my journey in writing this first book. It's not, I'm here to share everything I've learned, all the research I've done, other people I've talked to along the way. It's not here for me to give advice because I'm still a first-time author. There's a lot for me to learn. So this is how I start my journey as I forge my first book. You never realize how hard it is to talk in front of a camera until you have to. So if you can probably figure out that I have done a lot of these clips in short increments and then just edit them together because it is difficult. Well, a little bit about myself. You're like going, who is this person? As you can see by the color of my chinny chin chin, I'm a more seasoned gentleman. I've lived most of my life on the west coast of the United States, Washington, Oregon, and California. I've also lived in other states like Nevada, Arizona, Texas, and Mississippi. I've also lived abroad in different countries. I've lived in the Middle East. I've lived in Brazil. So at a young age in my life, I couldn't hear. Basically, for the first 6 years of my life, I was deaf. Nobody realized it until one day my dad was trying to talk to me and I had my back to him and I couldn't hear him. That's when they figured out I couldn't hear. So they stand there and had tubes put in because my ears weren't draining. That's why I couldn't hear. So I had tubes put in, and then I had to have them put in a second time because the drainage wasn't there. Well, the first couple of years of your life is detrimental in what you learn. And because couldn't learn, I was deaf for 6, I was really behind on my speech and everything. So I had to do the speech therapy classes and everything to try to catch up. After that, pretty much at a young age, around 10, my parents separated and divorced. I spent my school years with my mom, and then I spent my summers with my dad. And my summers with my dad were very interesting because we would do different things every year. One year I was picking apples and cherries up in Washington. I worked a ranch. Actually, I worked 2 different ranches in my life. I stand there, and one year I was working at a tuna factory in Oregon on the coastline. We spent a summer doing nothing but camping up and down the West Coast. Started in San Diego, ended in Vancouver. But it was always an adventure. One year I worked in my uncle's machine shop in the Bay Area. Another one I worked in the vineyards around my grandparents in Napa Valley area. So it was a good experience, a great childhood and everything. After that, high school, I decided to go to college. Let me rephrase that. I tried to go to college. I didn't make it very far. Right away, all I worried about was, hey, I'm going to go party and have a great time. Well, I didn't make it through the semester. I was done. So I joined the service. Everybody in my family are all ex-Navy, so I joined the Navy, in which I spent the next 22 years of my life in the Navy. By the time I was 21, I had already been around the world. Spent most of my time in the Far East and the Middle East part, but I've been in the Mediterranean and there also. During that time, I've done a lot of things. I served in 2 wars, Desert Storm and Iraqi Freedom. But during my time when I was in the service, one of the times I was in the Persian Gulf off the coast of Iran, and the guy I served with was an author. And he was somebody who inspired me to try to write. So there I was with a notepad writing. But this wasn't the first time I've tried to write. As a kid, if my mom was still alive, she probably would still have these, but I would used to write stories. Love writing stories. And then I would put together these little booklets of the stories or picture booklets, which are basically now considered graphic novels of stories I would tell. My grammar wasn't the best in the world, that's definitely for sure, or my spelling, but the ideas were really well and everybody enjoyed them, and stuff like that. So there was an idea I had as a very young kid. At 6 years old. This is what this is, this story. You know, I tried to rewrite it when I was later off in life and I was in the service and everything. So, but after my time in the service, I went and tried a job where I was a site manager and we did computer-based training course development. And we would install these systems and we would do on-site training, and then we would leave them with the stuff that they could do training on their computers. I didn't last. I lasted about 6 months there. It was just, if I wanted to travel as much as I was, because I was never home, I would have stayed in the service and done another year there instead. So I left and I decided, you know what, I've been around my life around the military, so let's go back to that. So I became a defense contractor. I work on flight simulators, and that's what I've been doing for the last about 20 years. Great stuff. Learned a lot of things there too, and doing a lot of things. It's a job where I get to be electronics technician, which is what my training was all about while I was in the service. Also mechanical, hydraulic, and IT, in which I went later on in college that I worked at and got my education was around being the IT world. So I'm doing all this stuff, and then while I'm working that job, I also got a second job, and that was as a coach. I started coaching girls fast pitch softball, in which I coached for about 7 years. I coached it from the travel ball to the high school to the college level. I was a pitching coach at a local junior college. After that, I decided I was going to try coaching football. Well, I've been coaching football now for about a dozen years at the high school level. I'm a head coach at a local high school here. So my days are pretty darn busy and pretty stressful. I got a regular job, which I work as a graveyard, so it's 10 at night to 7 in the morning. And then I got the football coaching, so I only get a couple hours of sleep there a day. It can be very nerve-wracking. There's no time for myself. So I was like, I need something to be able to get my mind off the stress of the day. I can relax. Everybody goes, well, go work out. And I've done that. And I go work out with my son and everything. But it wasn't it. I go for walks, take my dogs out for long walks. That was always nice, but it wasn't the thing that was really relaxing. It wasn't relaxing my mind. Relaxed my body, but not my mind. So I decided, you know what? I've tried to do this numerous times. Like I said, I tried it as a kid. This same story, I tried as a kid, making a picture book and little story, to trying to do it when I was with my colleague when I was in the service, who was a published author. He does military fiction, like something like Tom Clancy type books. So I'm going to try to do it myself. So I decided I'm going to do this, but I started researching stuff. You know, YouTube's a great avenue for finding things out. Did a lot of research, talked to a lot of other people, and one of the things I decided was, you know what, I'm going to put together this channel and document what am I doing? How am I going along? How is this working? What did I learn? Share everything I've learned. So that's what this is all about. So I'm going to take this journey, and I hope you're going to join me in this journey. Maybe I'll make some new connections and new friends. Learn a lot more things as I'm going along, as I stand there and do periodic videos as I hit different milestones in my attempt to try to write my first book. I'm going to try to stay very focused on this. Okay? So hope you're going to join me. If you do, go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.